February 19th, 1945, 6:40 a.m. The Pacific Ocean is unnaturally calm. Before the horizon, an armada unlike anything the world had ever seen waits in silence. 500 ships, carrying 70,000 U.S. Marines, engines humming like a giant beast preparing to breathe fire. At the center of this steel ocean stands Iwo Jima, a small black speck of volcanic ash. 8 square miles of rock, shaped by fire, defended by men prepared to die. A young Marine from the 5th Division, PFC James Doc Jackson, stares toward the island and whispers the words many would repeat that morning. This isn't an island. It's a tombstone sticking out of the sea. For the Marines, this would become one of the most brutal battles in American history. For the Japanese defenders, 21,000 soldiers led by General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, it would be a last stand carved into rock, fire, and volcanic ash. This is the Volcano Island Hell. The battle for Iwo Jima wasn't fought for land. It was fought for the sky. By early 1945, American B-29 Superfortress bombers were striking mainland Japan from bases in the Mariana Islands. But many limped home with engines destroyed, fuel leaking, or crews bleeding out. Iwo Jima, sitting directly between Japan and the U.S. bombing routes, was the perfect emergency landing strip. But it was also a radar and fighter base for Japanese interceptors. Whoever controlled Iwo Jima controlled the air. General Howland Mad Smith, commander of the Marine Landing Force, summed it up bluntly: "We must take Iwo Jima. There is no other way." Iwo Jima is not like other islands in the Pacific. There are no jungles, no rivers, no places to hide. It is a lifeless volcanic rock, constantly trembling from underground pressure. In some places, the ground reaches 140 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to burn through boots. At the southern tip rises the dark, scarred mountain, Mount Suribachi, an extinct volcano, but still breathing sulfur like a dragon. General Kuribayashi studied the island carefully. He knew the Marines would land on the beaches. He also knew those beaches were death traps, so he created something new, something the Americans had never faced before. Instead of defending the waterline, Kuribayashi reshaped the island into a man-made hell. 11 miles of underground tunnels connecting bunkers, hospitals, ammo rooms, pillboxes with 4 feet of steel-reinforced concrete, artillery hidden in caves with retractable steel shutters, snipers buried beneath the volcanic sand, invisible, machine guns arranged to create crossfire killing zones. When an American reconnaissance report reached Washington, a Marine intelligence officer wrote, "Iwo Jima will be a fortress of death." Kuribayashi's final order to his men was simple: "You will kill 10 Americans before you die." They bowed, knowing none of them would return home. February 19th, 1945, D-Day. The first wave of Marines, the 4th and 5th Divisions, climbed into their landing craft. Some whispered prayers. Some checked their rifles again and again. Others silently stared, knowing the truth. Many would never reach the sand alive. At 9:02 a.m., the first Marines stepped onto Iwo Jima. The soldiers expected machine gun fire, but the island was silent. Marine Captain Dave Severance, commander of Easy Company, later recalled, "It was too quiet. We knew something was wrong." The Marines advanced 100 yards inland, 200, then 500. Still no shooting. Then at 10 a.m., when the beaches were completely packed with Marines, tanks, tractors, flamethrower teams, and engineers, Kuribayashi gave a single signal. The island erupted. Machine guns opened from Suribachi. Artillery guns, once silent, unleashed fire. Mortars burst from hidden pits. Snipers picked off the first officers. In 1 hour, entire platoons disappeared. A Marine radio operator screamed into his handset, "We're being slaughtered out here. God help us. Send everything you've got." The volcanic sand was unlike anything the Marines had trained for. Each step sank them deep. Calves, knees, sometimes thighs. Dragging a wounded Marine felt like pulling a truck through mud. Tanks bogged down. Artillery couldn't move inland. Men running for cover collapsed as bullets sliced through them. Private Bill Sletzig, 28th Marines, later said, "You either dug or you died. The island didn't give you a choice." The wounded cried for corpsmen. Medics sprinted through fire, using themselves as shields. One medic, pharmacist's mate second class John Willis, treated 10 Marines under fire, throwing back grenades hurled at him until one exploded in his hand. He died saving others, later receiving the Medal of Honor. And all the while, Mount Suribachi watched. For 4 days, the 28th Marine Regiment clawed its way toward the volcano. Every cave entrance hid a machine gun. Every ridge masked a sniper. One Marine described Suribachi as a hornet's nest made of stone. On February 23, 1945, at 10:20 a.m., a patrol of 40 Marines from the 5th Division reached the summit. At their head was First Lieutenant Harold Schreier. Inside a cave, they found Japanese soldiers preparing a final suicide attack, but the Marines struck first. Minutes later, on the peak of Suribachi, they raised the first small American flag. When the Marines on the beaches saw it, a thunderous cheer rose. General Holland Smith turned to his staff and said, "That means everything." But the battle was far from over. The larger famous flag raising, the one photographed by Joe Rosenthal, would happen hours later. And while the flag rose, Marines were dying by the hundreds on the northern half of the island. The real hell had only begun. Mount Suribachi was only 1/3 of the island. The real death ground lay to the north, a maze of jagged ridges, cliffs, and fortified positions that the Marines quickly named with grim poetry. The Meat Grinder, Hill 362A, Hill 362B, Turkey Knob, Amphitheater Ridge. Here General Kuribayashi's fortress waited, thousands of Japanese soldiers, hidden inside iron-hard volcanic bunkers linked by tunnels. Flamethrowers, grenades, tanks, and artillery would barely scratch them. A Marine corporal from the 3rd Division remembered, "We were fighting ghosts. You shot into a cave and they fired back from a different hole behind you. Every ridge taken came at the price of dozens of men." Motoyama Plateau, February 25th to March 3rd, 1945. At the center of the northern defense sat the brutal position Marines called the Meat Grinder, a 3-part Japanese kill zone. 1. Hill 382, 2. Turkey Knob, 3. The Amphitheater. The 4th Marine Division was ordered to take it. In the words of Colonel Harry the Horse Liver Sedge, "We won't take it in one rush. We'll take it yard by yard, and if we live that long." Turkey Knob, the stone fortress. Turkey Knob was not just a hill. It was a massive block of volcanic rock, nearly solid, hollowed out and reinforced with steel and concrete. Inside were artillery crews, heavy machine gunners, a communication center, troops who could vanish and reappear from tunnels. The Marines brought everything they had: 75mm pack howitzers, Sherman tanks, naval gunfire, flamethrower teams, bulldozers, even 8-inch naval guns from battleships. And still, Turkey Knob held. One Marine sergeant wrote, "We poured fire into it for days. It didn't even scratch." For 8 days, the 4th Division bled itself dry against the rock fortress. The bodies of Marines, Japanese defenders, and destroyed equipment turned the ground into a twisted metal graveyard. But slowly, painfully, the Marines inched forward. By March 3rd, the Meat Grinder was taken, but at a terrible cost. As the Marines closed in on the tunnel networks, one weapon became essential: the M2 flamethrower. Every flamethrower operator knew he was a top priority target. They carried 70 pounds of fuel, a weapon that made them slow, and a flame that could be seen from across the battlefield. Many did not survive their first day, but those who did changed the battle. Medal of Honor, Herschel Woody Williams. On the southwestern front, a young flame operator from the 3rd Marine Division made history. Corporal Herschel Woody Williams. For 4 hours, he crawled alone toward pillboxes, igniting them one by one, even as machine gun bullets cut the straps on his tanks. A Marine nearby recalled, "He was a one-man army of fire." Williams destroyed 7 fortified positions and survived the battle. He would become one of the last living Medal of Honor recipients from World War II. The 5th Marine Division's hell. Northwest of the Meat Grinder rose 2 jagged volcanic ridges. 362A, 362B. These were not hills, they were nightmare fortresses. On Hill 362A, one Marine later said, "The Earth itself was shooting at us." Japanese soldiers would disappear into tunnels, then emerge behind American lines, attacking with grenades, bayonets, knee mortars, demolition charges strapped to their bodies. Bloody hand-to-hand combat became the norm. In one instance, a Marine lieutenant reported killing 7 attackers with his K-bar knife inside a cave, emerging covered in ash and blood. On Hill 362B, the Marines fought for 72 hours straight, many without sleep, food, or water. Rain of artillery and mortar fire made the ground tremble like the volcano had awakened. A medic wrote, "You didn't dig foxholes, you dug graves and hoped your body fit." February 23, 1945, Iwo Jima's most iconic moment. While the northern battle raged, Joe Rosenthal captured an image on Mount Suribachi that would become one of the most reproduced photographs in history: the raising of the second American flag. The men raising it were Sergeant Michael Strank, Corporal Harlan Block, Private First Class Ira Hayes, Private First Class Franklin Sousley, Private First Class Harold Schultz, later identified, Pharmacist's mate John Bradley. What many don't know is that 3 of these men would die on Iwo Jima in the following days. Michael Strank, killed by naval shell explosion. Harlan Block, killed by mortar fire. Franklin Sousley, shot by a sniper. Ira Hayes, haunted by survivor guilt, later said, "I was no hero. The real heroes are the ones who never came back." By mid-March, the Japanese defenses were collapsing, but General Kuribayashi refused to surrender. He ordered his troops, "Fight until only stones remain." American intelligence expected a final banzai charge. Instead, Kuribayashi changed the script. He ordered his men to retreat into the northern caves, re-emerge at night, infiltrate Marine positions, and cause maximum chaos. On March 25th at 5 a.m., Kuribayashi launched the final attack, but not where the Marines expected. 450 Japanese soldiers appeared out of tunnels near Airfield No. 2, attacking engineers, pilots, medics, and support troops. For hours, hand-to-hand combat turned the airstrip into a slaughterhouse. A bulldozer operator, Corporal James Diamond, used his bulldozer as a shield, rescuing wounded men under fire. The attack was eventually crushed, but it became the last coordinated Japanese assault on Iwo Jima. Kuribayashi likely died leading his men in the field, a rare act for a general. His body was never formally identified. March 26, 1945. Official end of the battle. After 36 days of fire, steel, and ash, Iwo Jima was declared secure. But the cost was unimaginable. U.S. casualties: 6,821 killed, 19,217 wounded. Japanese casualties: over 20,000 killed, only 216 captured alive. Admiral Chester Nimitz summarized the Marines' valor in words that would echo through history. Uncommon valor was a common virtue. Iwo Jima became more than an island. It became a symbol. Months later, American B-29 bombers made over 2,400 emergency landings on its runways. 100,000 airmen owed their lives to the Marines who fought there. Survivors rarely spoke of the battle. Those who did struggled to find the words. Marine Private Bill Gnaust, the man who filmed the flag raising, died in a cave on March 4th. His body was never recovered. Decades later, flame operator Woody Williams reflected, "We were just boys sent to do a man's work." Many of those boys never got the chance to grow old. And Ira Hayes, standing before the Marine Corps Memorial, whispered, "I didn't raise the flag. They did."